Welcome to Lessons in Rural Community Engagement, a conversation series with Chelsey Patriss and Rosa Fernandez of the Health Equity Partnership of North Central Massachusetts.
I think we're definitely learning when it comes to youth engagement, right? Like it's not been one of our core activities in the past, and we're just really starting to do it more. And there's so much to learn and so much to balance because young people have such amazing ideas and hope and vision, and they see things, right? They see the connections and they see the issues, and they're very passionate about what they want to do. But they also don't have, the depth of experience with systems and with policies and with even just the logistics of how to put an event together or how to get a meeting with people or how to see a project through and how long it can take to do a project. And that's not what their experience is. So
and I feel on the flip side, youth development is about letting them gain those experiences and letting them fall on their faces even when they screw up. Sometimes as organizations or as professionals, it's hard for us to sit on the sideline and say, we have a big event to do and here are the young folks planning for the event. It's hard to not stay away and share your input on, oh, wait, this is that. No, youth development and engagement is about them failing and getting up and experiencing what it's like to fail in something and learn how to fix it. So that's what youth development is all about. Although you might cringe a little bit because you're like,
I am cringing. I'm cringing while you're saying it.
They can't mess up our next event, and which they won't. But I don't.
Right. Well, and knowing as the adult, right, which parts of that are on you. I think that's what it is. It's not just like letting them fail, like in a way that, like, knowing what your support is. For instance,
and with youth, it's like our stakeholders. We have to be really clear with our expectations and be real transparent on what we are trying to accomplish together as an organization, and also the youth and youth understanding that they also are representing the organization or other young people within their communities, and so that they have an understanding and an awareness of this type of work.
Yeah, helping them see the bigger picture and where their passion and their project kind of fit in that bigger picture. Can be really challenging, right, for an organization that's dealing with long-term systems change work and big issues, and how we really have youth for a very short amount of time in terms of we're usually talking about like maybe a 4-year period that you get with them when they're somewhere in the high school to college age range, and you're engaging them in this kind of work. 4 years is kind of a maximum, right, that you could possibly have engagement with these kids over. And to have them engage in work that feels meaningful to them and not overwhelming. I mean, they have lives, right? And presumably they're engaged in this work because they have some lived experience, which means they probably have some barriers of their own that they're struggling through. And so not putting so much responsibility on them, and not letting them feel isolated, right? Having enough other youth that your youth engagement, I think, requires a lot of recruitment to keep it going. And I think for us, like, that's going to be a huge challenge because we've just started a youth organization, right? We just started a youth council. It took a lot of work to recruit 15 youth to be on this council. And we can't just sit on that, right? We can't just be like, well, yay, we have 15 youth because next year we're going to have 10 if we don't keep recruiting, and we're going to, or fewer if we don't keep recruiting.
Well, what I've learned through my experience with young people and youth development is a lot of them stay engaged in that work. Once they went through this process, they gonna continue their career paths and something that kind of was similar or really was
Just because they don't stay with you doesn't
Right.
mean that they don't stay. Like they're growing in the work.
field.
Yeah.
They do grow into the field, and I see it all the time. Like you grab young people, they learn about engaging community, and then they get passionate about it, and then they want to go into a career that aligns with it, whether it's teaching or advocacy, government. Like civic engagement, they get into something that really has to do with building trust with their community and implementing strategies that inform the community and helps the community strive to do better.
Yeah. So you're planting seeds. You're
Yes.
yeah, you're letting something grow that's going to go out into the world. I mean, that's they're young people. That's what they do, right? Is they learn and grow and then they go out into the world and do their thing, and that's you're not engaging them for the purpose of keeping them forever.
Yeah, and this is something that should be in the school curriculums, teaching young people how to be good citizens of their communities, and because then what we implement in the school system, we implement them at a young age, then they become that as a product of our communities.
Well, and you made me think, like, if you're giving kids the opportunity to do something that they're really passionate about, that they care about, and to have wins, to see something happen that they did, that they drove, whether it's, an event or, a one time, a project, art piece or something, even if it seems small to you in terms of like the global problem of what you're trying to solve or even what you're trying to engage them in, if it made them have that sense of accomplishment, right? And they took a process through its steps, they've learned something that they're going to take into, and they've learned to care about, that they can actually change things, right? And that they can do things, and it gives them the confidence and the tools to do bigger things. And while they're doing that small thing, you can still be engaging with them and getting their input and their thoughts on those bigger long-term things. You can be getting their story. You can be getting their testimony. You can be, getting them to do some of those things that they're never going to see the end result of because they'll be off and doing something else by then.
They're like in our nation, like they're really stepping up right now. Like we really um didn't engage them as much in the past because of course the adultism, we think young people, what do they know? But they're more actively involved now in our society, and they're more civically engaged. Even younger politicians, they're younger people running for politics, and a lot of younger people advocating. There's more advocacy on their levels. So just to not dismiss young people and the power of the young people's voice, and even just when it's just to share how important it is to really engage your young folks.
Yeah.
In this process, and it's a long learning for young people.
You're right, though, about how it can be so fruitful because they often aren't inhibited by some of the past experience that we as adults may have, and we may dismiss solutions as oh, we've tried that before, or oh, that's hard, or oh, that's maybe that's not, for one reason or another, we have some past experience that makes us think that that's not a good solution. And, maybe that experience is right, and maybe it isn't, and maybe we didn't, try things at the right time, or we didn't try something enough times, right? Or, sometimes it's just a matter of like how many times you've come back and tried to socialize the same idea, and were people ready to receive that idea? Or
who the messenger was at the time, or who the recipient of the message was at the time, or any other number of things, but they don't have that holding them back, right? When they're thinking about ideas and opportunities, and they, will approach something with fresh eyes, which is, something that we really benefit from.
Yeah, and with young people, sometimes nothing, nothing for them to lose. They feel like, oh well, wow, I got this platform where you actually want to listen to what is affecting us and our peers, and so they're more fluid with what they want to bring to the table, and they bring issues that they're okay bringing to the table that we.
That's a great point, though, that they have nothing to lose, in terms of like their, when we are thinking about like, well, how much time am I putting into this solution, and if it doesn't work, what have I lost in terms of time, and in terms of reputation, and in terms of the money that we're, the grant funding that we're spending on this solution, and they don't have any of that at stake, so they're them putting something out there and trying it, they can be bolder.
And they translate things a little bit. They see it through another lens, through a young person's through their own life experience, and it may look different from someone, to your point, who has other experiences.
Sometimes a young person is exactly the right person to deliver a message too, right? I mean, so for a bunch of, maybe curmudgeonly town folk who, want to get their agenda through, in 45 minutes or less and be out of that meeting, to hear a presentation by a young person, how heartless do you have to be like, we're on a schedule, we got to get out of here, thank you very much for your time. Like, they're gonna hear, they're gonna take more time maybe to hear that from a young person, and maybe take it seriously and want to be encouraging and to give them a positive result and a positive experience.
Yeah, when a young person talks, it really grounds you as an individual and as a community member. And a lot of the times, adults are in this work because they want a better future for their children, their nieces and nephews, and they just want a better world for folks they love to live in.
I think we hadn't finished talking about youth engagement in terms of making them feel comfortable, right? Like making sure that they had other youth and other youth who they are comfortable with, not just like when we ended up picking 15 youth because we didn't want to have tokens, right? We didn't want to have like one youth from this school system and one youth from a different school system, and only one youth who was young male of color, and so that they could build some community and feel comfortable in doing that.
Right. It's important to create the space for young people, especially young people who are going through a lot of different situations in their lives, or you know their environment, their home environment, and how they're being brought up in school environment. So they're exposed to a lot of environments that either are harming them or doing them justice. And so I think it's important that when we're doing some recruitment, that we're really authentic, to your point of how we recruit, that we hit the spaces where young people congregate, that we do it in different settings and also in different capacities, so that we engage as many young people as we can, and that we have representation. Representation is also important. That we include, that we have someone who can look and speak like them, has the slang and the what's trending with young people, and that we that there's also that opportunity for either young people to learn from one another as well, to really hold a space where that they could be themselves and really share what's important to them and what's important to their peers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lessons in Rural Community Engagement with the Health Equity Partnership of North Central Massachusetts and paid for by a grant from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health through the New England Rural Health Association.